I'd like to propose to you a way of seeing the world, a way which I believe many before me have seen it also, but in a manner that most have never understood. And it might be understood once you know why I am sympathetic to the view that reality might be made in the image of man, or man in God, and therefore that reality is most accurately represented by symbols like these. The early Vedic texts of Hinduism speak of this, the world being made through the sacrifice of a cosmic man, with 1,000 eyes and 1,000 ears, which now make up the world around us. We understand reality through perceptions, even that which is beyond our senses. We understand what it is for a tree to fall in a forest with no one to see, not because anyone has perceived it, but because someone could be perceiving it, and it might look how we imagine it to. Despite its remoteness, we understand it in our own image, how such a thing relates to ourselves. And most fundamentally, we can never move beyond understanding things like this. Our most rational theories, most independent and timeless, are nonetheless in the image of what we know to be the human experience. And this is fine. This is complete, or as close to it as we could hope. But this has always been the key of the ancients, that the truest understanding of the world has come from an understanding of the human being themselves. At least on one level, we perceive the world through the brain. It has two hemispheres, each with different roles and functions, one being responsible for positive emotion and the other for negative, one focused, descriptive and linguistic, the other perceptive, emotional and imaginative. We have always known the world through these dualistic qualities. It is our perception itself, and it is yin and yang. When a person has a stroke in the right side of their brain, something very strange happens. Many of these stroke victims experience something known as left neglect, a tendency to ignore stimuli from the left side of their vision, leading to some very strange effects. This is the result. It is not a problem with vision, but of an inability to link items to the coherent context which the right brain is responsible for creating. And what is even more bizarre is that often those with left neglect will be absolutely adamant that nothing is wrong, even if they cannot recognize their own left limbs as belonging to themselves. So what does this tell us about perception? For one, that when the right hemisphere is inactive, the meaning of things drastically changes. They cannot be placed in any meaningful relationship to the world, and despite still being there, they are practically invisible. The way I describe this is that the world becomes flat without the input of the right brain. The left brain is exceptional at its reasoning skills and linguistic ability. It describes reality through exceedingly complex languages, such as mathematics and science. And this is how we can abstract the world of motion and activity to concepts such as parabolic trajectory, or by representing correlated factors on a graph. The complex, singular, and immersive reality of our daily experience is condensed by the left brain and minimized into this flat representation. But without the right brain, the rest of the world disappears, and this world becomes flat, merely a model, indifferent and lacking meaning. Look at this painting to see. The right brain adds something very important to the left-brained model of the world. It immerses us within it and makes it real. It is predominantly subconscious. The world around only becomes an active place, full of life, when we are immersed in its story, which is the role of the right brain. In terms of the yin and yang, It provides the yin to the model the left brain believes in, filling in the blanks in the periphery. Our model then falls into the world and fills its space. When I read stories as a child, I would always be infatuated by the maps drawn on the initial first few pages. They provided detail that the story would never mention explicitly. They would show nearby villages and rocky terrain and twisting roads, and this made perfect sense, despite not being described in the stories themselves. Such a map would make the story more engaging and more real, since every word in the story thereafter had more implicit meaning, evoking more of my imagination. The world of the novel would be extended beyond the relatively flat surface layer of the words themselves, each time imagery, linguistic or visual, was used. This makes the difference between merely comprehending the plot of a story and the words themselves, and taking part in it within the imagination. This flat surface layer representation of the words themselves can indeed even fit on the thin sheet that makes a single page. Do you understand what I am trying to say? The yin and yang contains 4 distinct sections: the larger body of yin and the larger body of yang, and the yin and yang within their opposite partner. We have already discussed how each instance of the yin and yang represents a cosmos, or a harmonized system that culminates in an identity. A house, for example, is yin and yang, inside and out, structure and space, just as a state is, or a body. The involvement of quaternities in the structure of the cosmos has long been a recurring archetype. It is associated with a proper stability and order. One might observe how the 4 cardinal directions set out the boundaries of the interactive world. Once we are immersed in the cosmos of space and time, we find ourselves in the middle of these 4. Typically, there are 4 dimensions we are able to perceive as constituting the world: the 3 dimensions of space and the 1 of time that make up space-time. The world has 4 fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. Human beings can be categorized as mother, daughter, father, and son. Our DNA is encoded with 4 bases, and the world is astrologically partitioned into the 4 seasons, dictated by the equinoxes and solstices. The 4 states of matter are solid, liquid, gas, and plasma, and our hearts have 4 chambers. Last but not least, the tradition of almost every continent has theorized about the 4 classical elements: water, earth, fire, and air. The theory of the 4 elements is more or less dismissed now, ever since the discovery of different types of atom. But the 4 classical elements perhaps represent something deeper still than our modern theory of the elements. The more advanced alchemist, theologian, or philosopher was well aware that these 4 elements existed even where they could not easily be seen. The fire of life being within all things. Perhaps one would have even been ready to describe atoms in terms of the 4 elements. When yin and yang are balanced, truth is able to persist, and without this balance there would be no real reality. Mankind is strung precisely between the 4 elements. We are strung between water and fire, far enough from the sun to avoid an inferno, yet close enough that we will not freeze or perish. Everything we eat and therefore become is originally of the earth, yet without air we cannot turn this food into energy and live. We are risen from the earth but subordinate to the sky. As such, we are strung between these 2 forces also. Likewise, the feminine components of earth and water work together to make our bodies, and the masculine components of air and fire work together to provide heat and energy. All of this relates to the meaning behind Mother Earth and the heavenly Sky Father. Water and earth nourish and provide for us, and air and fire are catalysts which draw us towards some goal. hence why we wish to seize the day, and why plants strive upwards towards the light. And thus these elements mimic the roles of nourishment and guidance. Genesis speaks of mankind as a collection of dust with the breath of life blown through him. Mankind then thirsts and is kept warm by the fire within his heart. Mankind is therefore the culmination of the four elements. You may be thinking that it is simple enough to spot these patterns, but ultimately I may be able to do the same with other categories. But psychologically, these four elements have become an archetype, and that alone is reason to suggest that they hold their own significant psychological weight. The four elements are the most fundamental to life. They are balanced as a yin and yang symbol, closest to life that we might comprehend. The four elements are as real as ever. They are a key to introspection. We spoke of how the subconscious right brain provided the yin to the egoic model of the left brain. The subconscious is known as a watery substance, and to tether oneself to reality is grounding or earthly. The abstractions of the left brain are untethered and can float alone like platonic forms as though they were air, and it is more predictive than the right brain. Prometheus means forethought, and he was known for providing mankind with the forbidden fire from the gods. I have said that traditions across the globe recognize the four elements of fire, earth, water and air, but some identified a fifth alongside them. Again, these traditions, primarily Eastern, recognized the fifth element as the same thing, void. The other force in the cosmos was perceptible in the absence of the other elements. It was the fabric of the ether, which was responsible for spiritual communication and otherworldly qualities. This is yet again encapsulated in the yin and yang. I have often spoken of the meaning within the borders of the yin and yang symbol, representing the journey of the hero and the boundaries of category. It is this fifth component to the symbol, its border, which binds its four components together, yet simultaneously exists only in relation to them. When the four elements combine, the symbol as a whole is formed. Remember this depiction of the fractal yin and yang. Here, each yin and yang ascends into the next, and transcending one instance of yin and yang leaves you within another. This is, in many ways, a more accurate depiction of reality. A mind is a cosmos within a person, who is a cosmos within a household, who is a cosmos within a nation, and so on. This is how I believe the void element relates to the yin and yang. It is not that this awareness was present when these symbols were conjured, but that the structure of reality itself is expressed through both. Many philosophers now speak of emergent properties within the world. Perhaps when they say that a certain composition of matter has the emergent property of consciousness. Or if one were to say that music is an abstraction that expresses human emotion in a streamlined state. This speaks to the pyramid structure of reality. More unique, higher identities emerge from the composition of base reality. 3 quarks make an atom. 2 atoms make a molecule. 1 billion molecules make a person. 1 million people make a nation. The pyramid structure has 4 sides and 4 corners. And once this shape is realized, there is a stable base to add the next, higher level to the structure. Just as when balance is achieved in a microcosm, one becomes more capable to bring balance to a macrocosm. This is the introduction of the element of void. As higher identities emerge in reality, they become more ethereal and otherworldly, and this can be symbolized through the reduction in the pyramid's dimensions as it climbs. From the Emerald Tablets, every step thou taketh but lengthens the goal. The ancients have understood the power of the pyramid to a deeper level than we do today. But we can tell that the highest of the pyramid was associated with the sacred, the jewel of the hierarchy, emerging on top of all other things, purified and singular, yet dependent on the base for structure. Man has always sought to purify himself in this pyramidical manner, which is why metaphors like cream rises to the top will make sense to us intuitively, although we take their symbolic nature for granted. Yet we find ourselves tethered to many worldly things, distant from the transcendent which is above. And this is the principle of Saturn, or lead, which weighs us down to learn hard truths. We must begin from the starting point we find ourselves in. We must manifest balance to progress by appreciating the stability of the four elements. And then we will have the ability to purify the spirit. Those who cannot see this pyramid-like structure within the cosmos will simply not climb. Wisdom is power, and power is wisdom, each side balancing the other and completing the whole. All the love, all the power.